Good morning.
Nice to meet you.
Good morning. Nice to meet you guys.
Never met you before in my entire life.
Never met this person. I'm so happy to be here at the Anthem Brewery.
We're happy to have you guys, you two
Thank you so
complete
much.
strangers. I appreciate you both showing up
Of course.
today.
We were
That's awesome.
very excited to get in here and just kind of try some beers and, learn how you guys do your thing.
Learn a little bit about the history and the process of making beer.
Yeah.
We can maybe help you with that.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
Come on, let's drink.
All right. I'll have one IPA, please. Thank you.
Oh, I would like to try this Mangoza that is conveniently sitting here.
Mangoza from Anthem's IPA from Anthem.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, that hits the spot. What do you got going on
Man.
over there, Billy? Like, what's going on in
Every
your mouth
time I
ears?
have an IPA here, it tastes so much better than when I buy it somewhere else. That's all I want to say.
I like to hear that. And I'm a sour man, and this is really, it hits the spot. Quenches
He
the
is very
thirst.
bitter and grumpy sometimes.
Well. Oh man, it's got the hint of mango. That is a delicious beer.
Well, Derek, you want to show us around the place?
Sure. You guys ready to roll?
Yeah,
do
I'm
it.
ready.
Let's
I'm
do it.
ready if you're ready.
Let's do it to it.
I like education.
So, you guys want to start with a little history of this place?
Yeah, absolutely.
That sounds great.
So, Anthem Brewing Company, we're one of the oldest breweries in the state of Oklahoma. So, depending on who you ask, we're probably third or fourth brewery in the state.
Okay.
That doesn't really matter, but we've been here a long time, so I'm getting at. So, kind of cool history about us where we started. We actually started in a little brewers co-op with another brewery, kind of south in the El Reno area, where we made our first beers. The last big tornado that came through in early 2012 leveled that building, so we lost everything.
Sucks.
Yeah, wasn't so good, right?
Not so good.
So when that happened, the next step for our group was to say, well, what are we going to do next? They found the building we're currently standing in right here. So since 2012, this has been home for us. This guy behind us is our original brew house.
Okay.
So
it's an actual house.
it is, yeah. One of our brewers lives on this side. The other one lives in here, but he's got another apartment too because he's fancy.
Yeah.
Oh,
But yeah, so we actually pulled this from a brew pub in Chicago that wasn't doing so hot, and we're selling equipment. So we went up, broke it down. Originally, this was just designed kind of make beer for the restaurant they have there. We bought
old
it.
Chicago?
Yeah, the oldest Chicago. Got that, broke it down, brought it back. 15 barrel system. So this is the system that up until January of this year, 2019, we brewed everything we've ever made on this system in this building. So, which is pretty remarkable because it's really not a system that's made for the volume of beer that we produce.
Yeah.
We make a lot of beer. So basically we just kind of worked this thing to death, but it hadn't died on us yet. We still use it every day, even with what you'll see in a minute.
Sure.
And we'll use this now for small batches and filling in and stuff like that. So 15 barrels is roughly 500 gallons of beer. So the way we brew, that's just one batch. And then depending on what we're making, we brew in 15, 30, or 60 barrel fermentations. When we get to that area, we'll talk about that a little further. But basically, yeah, we start there, 15 barrel batches. You see the fun line above you that runs in from a grain mill next door, drops in. The whole magic starts here, the base of the beer. It's where your grain bill goes in. You're making wort here. It's basically the fun oatmeal soup that is the flavoring of the beer that eventually becomes the juice you guys are drinking.
Yeah.
In one way or another. This one has to live in barrels, but
Tip from the pros, you can drink warts.
oh yeah, drink them all. Like all the worts you see, that's what we say. Nobody says
Good
that.
motto.
Don't do that. It finishes out there. Then we move to transport the fermentation. So to do that, super high-tech way the beer is made, in this super aggressive world that we're in now where beer is gigantic. There's 7,500 craft brewers and all these things. Is we take big hoses and we just hook them to other things. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, real fancy, right?
That
so
is very fancy.
that's still a system that works for us pretty well. So you'll see the big hose there. It's what eventually makes its way back. That's a 30 barrel fermenter there. So that's about half a batch we do, and we do a full batch. Or if we do smaller batches, then we just use that system. Cornhole here, if you guys want to, that's not part of the process, but that's.
Is this the same type of thing as those Japanese toilets where you kind of just
very similar. Yeah.
Okay.
But you want to throw a bean bag in it. You don't want to
Yeah.
excrement.
One before the other. That's what we say.
And they have
Yeah.
the barrel here, so you can push it in between if you have to like have two people going at the same
Yeah.
time.
This
is
kind
like
of
a
a
stall.
privacy thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
don't
you guys have pretty much have nailed it.
Yeah. It's great.
Awesome. Awesome.
All right, moving on.
Okay.
Yeah, every brewery's only as good as the forklift they have, and ours is old and gross, but it works. So the green mill I was talking about earlier, here's where this goes. So in our old system, our brewer Sean and Brian both, if they're brewing on that system, they have to start. There's 55-gallon bags or 55-pound bags, I should say, of grain here.
Yeah.
So they're hand cut, dropped in the mill. That system over there uses about, depending on what we're making, about 1,000 pounds of grain. So that's how the day starts.
That's 55
Billy
pounds.
here's going to show you. You think so? Are we right at it?
Yeah. That's exactly
You probably need to double
55
check.
pounds.
Let's see.
He's the human scale. That was his nickname.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah, that's 55 pounds.
Yeah, it's
exactly.
right out of it, I think. Yeah.
What do you think, buddy?
Thanks. Appreciate that, Billy. So the grain goes in there. So the fun thing is every morning, like I said, if you want to catch our brewers, the best mood is when they're lugging 55-pound bags
Yeah.
into a mill to count it to 1,000. Yeah, like I said, that's usually when I get my coffee and I don't come out and see how the guys are doing.
That's probably smart.
Yeah, thank you.
Good choice.
I'm smart once a day. There it is.
Yeah.
So this monstrosity behind us is our new brew house. So that fun little area where we started talking over there, this is its big brother.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, we started using this middle of January. And yeah, it's made our world a lot more straightforward and kind of helped us grow to the point that we plan on growing ahead. This is kind of our first step. We have plans after this, but as you can tell, it's a lot going on back here.
Yeah.
So especially if you come around the corner, right around here, you'll see these taller tanks in the back and then these ones up front. These are fermentation tanks. So
Okay.
the process we just talked about in the other room, that's where we'd end up hooking a hose to these. We fill them. So that big tall guy in the back's a 60-barrel fermenter.
Okay.
That's what we do most of our main batching in. So like I said, that's at that 15-barrel system. We got to do 4 brews on that to fill one of our fermentation
Oh,
tanks.
well, okay.
Now with our new system, which we'll get down to in a minute, it's a 30-barrel system, so it takes half the time. So
Nice.
we can basically make twice as much on a base setup. And then we also have our little buddy over there
So
helping
you,
also.
you will still be running both.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, we still
nice.
run
That's
both
good.
every day pretty much.
What's this thing here? This is just a refrigerator?
It's a
for
cold room, yeah. So this is
cold
where
beers?
we keep, we do cold storage in here.
Uh-huh.
Other things we do. So in the fermentation process, I know you're drinking an IPA, Billy, and we know you have them. We've all seen you chug a bunch and do that in the history of this brand you have. So how an IPA becomes an IPA, aside from what we started with, was
Yeah.
a lot of hopping. Dry hopping especially is the terms you guys hear if you're in beer world. So dry hopping happens in this fermentation tank like we showed. If you guys look at the top of that, there's like it's a 3-inch nubbin, which isn't, take your mind
That's
out
a
of
fun
it,
word,
guys.
though.
You wouldn't call it a nipple?
You could call it that. I'm a trained professional. So
you're gonna go nub?
nubbin,
Nothing.
the port on
Okay.
top. So when you dry hop a beer, you do literally shake in hops through that small
okay.
port. At a certain point, it's fermentation. When we decide we want to grab that IPA hoppy bitter flavor. So as we talk about IPA hoppy bitter flavor, we'll let you guys get a sniff of some hops.
Oh wow, yeah.
Let's go sniff some hops.
Let's
Let's
also
go
have some
sniff
hop.
some hops. We don't have the licensing for that.
So,
we need to probably not.
Hops are,
You get them at Lowe's.
we just buy these straight out at your local Lowe's.
Not a sponsor.
So hops are, hops don't look like this generally,
Horse
but hops look like horse pellets.
Yeah.
No, they actually are. They look like little flowers. Like
Smell it from
Yeah,
here.
you
smell it.
guys seen the picture? Billy, your glass has one on it.
Yeah.
There. It looks like a small flower. They're
like
actually broken down and
an
compressed.
artichoke.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're broken down and compressed into this form,
Oh, wow.
and that's just to get the
Quite
the
fragrant.
full strength. Yeah. Hoppy beers, hops in general, they're an ingredient in all beer, but now the popularity of IPAs and the growth of like super hoppy beers,
Yeah.
hops have become. They get a whiffer.
Taste that in the smell of
Yeah.
that.
No,
Yeah.
Right?
no.
Right?
Yeah.
It's
So
a
there's
sensual
and
overload.
these are actually Citra hops. So you'll see as you smell it, there's a lot of orange. There's a lot of citrus smell.
Okay.
The name isn't just a clever accident. That's the aroma they pull from. There's now like probably close to 100 varietals of hops. So some are very bitter, some are very fruity like this. So you make the blends, and that's how you decide what you're going to do with stuff like that. What's crazy though is with the popularity of hops currently in the stylings of beer, especially as IPAs have shot up to the roof of production, hops are a very finite resource because they're a flowering plant that has to grow, be broken down and made. So with that comes like exorbitant expense on the back end. So the priciest thing you'll notice if you go buy beers anywhere, if you buy an IPA, generally it's probably going to cost a little bit more.
Right.
Most of that's because of the cost of hops.
I thought it was because I could drink as many as I want and get up early and not have a hangover.
It's an added benefit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cost reward analysis is what we called it back in college.
Okay.
I remember I woke up for that class.
Oh, good.
Can I put one of those in here?
You know, Billy, if you did, I would say you'd hate yourself for a very long time.
I already hate myself.
Okay.
Oh,
This is
no.
not a good idea.
I'm not going to do that to my beer.
You got a sour. I
know.
understand.
It's already a perfect blend of flavors.
I want to, for the record, say on camera that I warned against this. So,
It's on the record.
It's good now. Let's see what
We'll get
happens
that in
when
a
we
minute.
get to
Yeah,
the
let it
bottom,
kind of
bottom of the
let that
glass.
marinate.
yeah. So hops, though, crazy stuff. They're, like I said, very, very integral part. Yeah, we're going to start. Billy's mouth's going to get real dry here shortly.
Yeah.
And the talking could come to a different place. So as we continue our abbreviated tour of how beer is made, so after fermentation occurs and the beer is ready to roll, we run it through a process in the back you can't see from here, but basically it goes through a centrifuge. It cleans the beer, cleans out any remnant particle. You can see it through here, this little crack, the little blue guy back there. But from that point, it comes to these flathead tanks right here. They're called bright tanks, and they're finishing tanks. That's the point where we add carbonation that's needed. We adjust any kind of ABV content if we have to. So they're just basically, at that point, the beer's ready to roll. And then we decide how we're going to package it. So are we going to throw it in kegs there? Are we going to hook it up to this guy, which is our canning machine, and go from there? And unfortunately, you know, obviously we don't can on the weekend, but normally this thing's humming.
So is most of the bulk of the stuff you see here is just for storage?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so the
That's
only,
interesting.
the only real brewing, I mean, you do things during storage, but yes, you're right. The other thing I failed to mention earlier was, so again, the volume we put out and the timelines that we need to turn product and things like that. If you've ever homebrewed, or if anyone watching is a home brewer, you know, the hardest part about homebrewing always is waiting the 5 weeks to get your beer because it takes that long to happen. So where we can kind of speed that process along is all these white tubes dropping down here, and then you saw them in the other room as well. So these are glycol lines. So glycol is basically like a fancy antifreeze. And what's cool about it is we can set a temperature to the glycol where that liquid stays the same temperature at all times. So the thing about when you get into fermentation, when you introduce the yeast, which is when the wort becomes beer, you know, what the yeast does, yeast is a bacteria that it's a fungus actually that goes in and it takes all the sugar from that wort and it eats it up, and the byproduct of what it kicks out is farts off CO2 and it cranks out alcohol. So that's where you get the things that make us happy.
Beer farts.
Beer fart.
So yeah, so when that happens, so the thing that makes yeast eat though is the right environment as well as the type of yeast and stuff like that. So with that glycol line, we can set the temperature of these tanks to the exact temperature that the yeast likes to eat. So for us in particular, like I'll use Golden as an example. That's our, you know, it's our flagship beer here. It's our Belgian blonde.
Yeah.
So the yeast for it eats at 62 degrees. So the second it leaves the brewing process into these tanks, the tanks are at 62 degrees. So we can make a full 60 barrel batch of Golden One in 9 to 11 days. So where if I made it at home, it'd be probably 4 to 6 weeks, just waiting for the yeast to eat and fermentation to occur and all that stuff.
Yeah.
We can speed that through with the glycol, which is pretty rad.
That
That's
makes
cool.
total sense because I have to be in the perfect environment, perfect situation to eat yeast.
You don't like bread?
So now we're gonna can it. So the canning machine, this process, you'll see from the fermentation, if we're gonna can it and not keg it, goes in this machine. This machine actually takes a pallet of kegs, or cans, which you'll see in a minute, rolls them over here, fills them behind. That's for shooting them rascals. Then they'll go over to that system there, and you'll see the cans are individually filled through these tubes as they trickle down here, come through. These are filler heads. So we fill 5 cans at a time. So for us to do a 60 barrel batch and can it all the way through, it usually takes us between 6 and 7.5 hours, depending on how well all this machinery plays nicely with us.
Right.
So yeah, it's a lot of beer. We make a lot of beer. Our pallets, the back part of that machine's a palletizer. Basically, it takes 6 packs of beer and cranks a little lid down on them and gets them ready to roll. Then we have our crack team of awesome folks that make our product. They individually hand stack them and build up cases and crates, and which we'll get to those in a minute. So,
Nice.
Little fun fact about us, I should have probably told you earlier, but now we're here and we're talking about how much we love them. For the amount of product we put out, which is quite a bit. I mean, this year we did almost twice what we did last year in just the back quarter of the year, purely by the law changing in the state where we had all this access to more spots to sell our product.
Right.
So we dramatically shot up how much we have to produce, right? What's wild is our entire production team, from everything you've seen so far, it's 6 people. So we don't have a
Wow.
rotating group of folks. It's from step one where we started to where we sit currently. There's 6 people that do it all, and they're the coolest, raddest folks, and they bust their tails
Yeah.
and they never complain.
That's incredible.
I mean, if they're in here and you see them, you have to buy them a beer because they're already drinking. But just give them one of these.
Yeah.
They're
High
busting
five.
their tail. We also have a really rad fact that we're pretty proud about. We have a pretty diverse team here, and we have a lot of women in production as well. So we're super proud about that. They kill it. Our ladies are superstars.
Awesome.
Our guys are all right. So there's our new brew house, just so you guys know. What's cool about this system, like I said, we got this up and running like the 2nd week of January. So this system in particular is nice because it's unlike our initial, our little copper buddy. This is a fully automated system here. So what's nice that we call this the pulpit up here with the green light. So on top of that pulpit, it looks like a big iPad. It's all touchscreen automation. So instead of having to do everything manually by hand, now we can move the material around with systems that start pumps and all that crazy madness.
It's kind of spooky
That's
in here.
crazy. When do y'all get in here? This
Yeah.
is crazy.
Take a peek.
Look
Yeah.
at that tank.
It is the most uncomfortable hot tub I've ever been in.
Yeah.
It looks like it would cut your legs off.
It's bad. Bad for swimming, great for beer.
Sure.
Yeah.
Not for people.
And so you guys see, there's a lot of equipment around here and squeegees and stuff like that. It's because you'll learn through the process of going to breweries, any brewery you ever go to, 96% of all beer making is cleaning the shit out of everything. And we do that constantly. We're pretty hardcore about our quality control. One thing that we pride ourselves at Anthem is we make a very consistent product. And to do that, you have to do lots of things perfectly and check it all the time. We just have a different method about how we do that. We're pretty diligent. There's no cutting corners on that stuff. We got to do what we got to do.
Right.
That's the reason why if you buy a product from us and you buy it 2 years later, it's going to taste the same. That's really hard to do when you scale up and you make the amount of beer we make, but we do a really good job of it. And that also has to do with our crack team of all-stars on this side of the wall as well.
Yeah. This looks like something out of a spooky movie.
Yeah, that's why you'll see squeegees and stuff, these water lines that drop to clean. Like, it's just a whole lot of cleaning. The reason we do that, though, is because one little quarter-sized piece of bacteria in one of these big 60-barrel fermenters, that's 2,000 gallons of beer in that thing. That much could make a yeast not want to eat, and then you just all of a sudden have 2,000 gallons of, soupy oatmeal that nobody wants to drink because there's no booze in it, right? Billy will drink it, but he drinks
he'll
everything.
drink about anything.
So now that process is complete, I know, clap for yourselves, we made it. So everything, yay! So now we get it to the form where this goes home with you and then it makes you feel good in your brains.
So you're saying we get to take this home?
This is for you guys, sure.
This entire...
Yeah, we worked this up for you guys last night. Yeah, we thought we'd at least get you through the week. So these are all ready to go. These will be picked up tomorrow to ship out to your favorite bars, restaurants, convenience stores, grocery stores, everywhere that fine beer is sold. If they're wrapped up. So we ship out and palletize in 70 case packs. So 70 of these. When we crank off, depending on how many kegs we make, we get a good amount of these. Just if you see just the orange toppers here, that's one batch of golden one. Wow. This is probably half of it. So yeah, we crank out a whole lot of product. Behind you, obviously, are the kegs we fill. These are going to be more at your bars and restaurants. Different sizings there as well. These are full, so.
I just was measuring it.
Okay, measuring around. We know our grain bags are at the right weight. Billy, double check on the kegs.
Well, I can get my fingers
Does
to
it
touch.
seem like the right circumference?
It's about right. It's about right.
We may want to get that cornhole board under him. I know I've mentioned a few times that we make a whole lot of beer. So if you look behind at this mecca of beer cans, so these are actually beers that are waiting to become happy. They're just, happiness and waiting cans, as we call them, because they're currently empty. These are what will go in that candy machine we talked about. But as you can see, it's quite a lot because of the amount we do and the styles we do. When we order cans, all of our cans also are printed on the can, the actual metal's printed. So we have to buy them by the truckload. So a truckload is like a 18-wheeler semi you see. So it's about 26 pallets of these.
Okay.
So each one of these pallets has 8,169 cans.
That's
Billy,
crazy.
I don't want to hear it.
No. So a truckload is different than a load, is what you're saying, in weight.
Metrically, they're the same, but from a can perspective, they're a bit off.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, no, you're right on it. We try to make our tours educational.
That's great. It's edutainment is a phrase
Thank
I
you.
like.
Yeah, well,
Entertaining.
we'll see. It's
Educational.
early, guys.
It's early.
Um,
I've just got to admire these cans.
yeah, get a little admiration in.
None of this is real. None of this is real. None of this is real. None of this
Hey, stop.
Okay.
Come on, let's go to the bar.
Sorry, Derek.
Derek. He's not our dad yet.
None of this is